Hi again, and welcome to the session 2.2. We are still in this theme of storytelling in architecture, and it is about planning urban neighborhoods and relating them to the surrounding city and the cultural heritage. So those are the themes and the background and the foundation for what we are going to talk about today. I'm going to take you to 4 parts of Copenhagen to tell you about the idea behind this approach that the architecture policy is defining here. Those 4 places are pointed out here. It's called Bispebjerg Bakke and Bellahøj and Meatpacking District and the Green Square. And as you can see, all of them are in the periphery of the center of the city. We know that is here, so Meatpacking District is definitely the one that is closest. And the other districts are new parts of the town that used to have other functions, but is now being transformed into more widely scoped, if you could say so, areas. First visit will be to the to the Meatpacking District. But before we enter into that, I'd like to kind of frame this session that we have today with the wordings from the architecture policy. Storytelling in architecture, this theme focuses upon building on Copenhagen's uniqueness and our common cultural heritage. And it's about transforming and developing the city into a contemporary architectural idiom. It also focuses upon strengthening the unique thing. What is special about this place and what is the local architectural distinctive character that needs to be supported in this space. The theme is about strengthening the physical edge of the city in humane and physical diversity. Copenhagen, as many other cities all over the world, has a series of unique neighborhoods. And Copenhagen districts, neighborhoods and sites all have their own unique characters and stories, which give them their unique local feel. Bispebjerg is different from Brønshøj and Nørrebro, even though it's in the same overall area. Vanløse is different from Vesterbro and Ørsted, even though Vanløse and Vesterbro are not too far from each other. Within this different districts too, there are special features and local narratives, which mean that any given district will contain several different areas and locations, and this gives the district and city a distinct architectural character which all development further should aim to strengthen. Any given project is initiated to fulfill a specific function, which could be housing, offices, a cycle path, or a recreational area. It is important for the city that the individual project does not only fulfill its function, but also considers the site-specific architectural quality, including green areas, building types, heights, exteriors, and connections and transitions between public areas. You could say that an overall aim that the architecture policy wants to support is that when you develop something, when you build something, you need to give something back to the city. We should focus upon how new features create value and give something back to the place and the surroundings. Thus, new buildings and facilities should support local life and help to meet people's wishes and needs in the local environment. Planning urban neighborhoods and relating them to the surrounding city and taking consideration of the cultural heritage, those are issues that are strongly supported and accommodated in the architecture policy. And the first case that we're going to talk about is the Meatpacking District. Today, this is one of Copenhagen's hotspots, and you will find probably the city's coolest crowd there. There, apart from chic restaurants, takeaways, and classy and underground bars, special events take place there all year round, adding an exciting note to the already vivid atmosphere. I was there this Saturday visiting a friend who has a workshop in the area, and it was full of people. Not in the critical way, not in bigger crowds than 10, which we're not allowed to be in for the time being, but in smaller crowds sitting around, separated but together, having a drink, drinking a cup of coffee, talking, having fun in the sun. And it was really relaxed and very nice neighborhood to be in. So I enjoyed it a lot. And it consists, as you can see here, it consists of 3 areas. This means the brown meat city, this means the gray meat city, and this means the white meat city. Those 3 areas have different stories. This was built up until the 20th century. It is called, as I said, it's called the brown meat city, and it covers this area edged by this dotted line here. And we're going to see a little bit closer to this building, but you can probably maybe imagine what has been going on here. It has not been here where the slaughterhouse were, but it was here where you kept the cattle until they were supposed to be slaughtered or butchered. This part of the brown meat city, almost all of it is listed, and it was built over a period of 50 years altogether. The entire area was built over a period of years that was around 50 years. And Øksnehallen, this big building here, was finalized in 1901. This was opened, the white, which is this one, was opened in 1934. And this was more or less it built in between, and it's called gray because of the bricks in the facade. This is brown because of the brick in the facade, and this is white because it actually favors and celebrates a modernistic, Nordic functionalistic architectural expression, which is more or less white all over. The brown, this one and this one over here, is protected by law. And it's also protected, it's not only protected because of its cultural heritage as such, but it's also protected as it is being on a list of 25 national industrial monuments and memorials in Denmark. This, the white city, meat city here, is a unique 871,000 square feet property. It's owned by the municipality of Copenhagen, and it homes still meat companies, creative industries, supermarkets, galleries, restaurants. And it's being developed, the plan and the strategy and the vision for it is that it is supposed to contain artists, galleries, meat industries, creative and gastronomic trendsetters, all blended together with the characteristic white buildings that are primarily from 1934. This part does not contain any housing at all, but every part around it contains really much housing. It's a very densely populated area. We have been talking a little bit about it before, and there is a lot of young professionals who live in this area, and they are also quite demanding in regards to what they want to take place to enjoy themselves. And that has been one of the main purposes, besides earning money for Copenhagen municipality, to develop this as a hub for all kind of creative, modern, up-to-date, future-oriented creative and cultural activities in this area. The Grey Meat City, which was this one, is a smaller area. It also has cultural activities and restaurants and offices and meat industries. It is not listed, but it's under the protecting law because of its importance in the Danish industrial history. And then finally, again, We're returning to the brown meat city that has schools, it has a theater, it has some hotel and conference facilities, it has a swim center, which is up here, and it has this beautiful antique exhibition hall that is called the Oxen Hall. And that is this building, which you can see from this aerial photo, that it has a characteristic roof, and all these slopes towards the east are glass, so it has a really fantastic daylight inside this building here. I'm already now actually appointing the assignment that is following this session, and this inspirational approach that I have tried to give you here in regards to the to the meatpacking district, I would actually want you to choose between one of 4 possible inspirational features to come up in your assignment with an example from your city and describe this. So we're going to come back to that in a short while. First of all, we're going to throw a glance into that Oxen Hall that I just appointed. And this is as you can see, a very beautiful, renovated and refurbished building. It is today an exhibition venue. It is very close to something called the Straw Square in the district of Vesterbro. It is more than 100 years old, as mentioned earlier, and it houses all kinds of exhibitions and fairs and events because it's one of the biggest exhibition spaces in Copenhagen. Throughout the years, this hall, Oxen Hall, has hosted several exhibitions, everything from the world-class photo exhibitions through baby fairs and luxury flea markets and so forth. It was designed by an architect called Ludwig Fehmer, and it was completed in 1901, as mentioned a few times already. It had room at den for 1,600 cattle who stood in rows along here, and this was before they were brought to the butchers. But after 20 years of operation, it did not any longer live up to the more stringent hygiene requirements that developed. So in 1934, the white meat market was erected, and the slaughtering was taking place there. And this building was actually abandoned for a series of years. And not until 1984 was anything really done to it. It just stood there. And then it was listed together with the side stables. But not until 1993, in connection with the urban renewal of the Vesterbro area district as such, was it decided to develop the Øksenhallen for culture and exhibitions. But as soon as that decision was taken, there was actually quite a high level of ambition about how it should then be done. And there was a lot of ecological issues that the municipality wanted to reinforce through the refurbishment of the Oxen Hall. At the same time, they also wanted the situation around the Oxen Hall to mirror the original quality and character. So there was it was a difficult task to kind of solve all these ambitions in this one building approach. But it has been carried out as environmentally friendly as possible. And among other things, all the stones in the floor that you can see here are molded from old scraped floor material of the original Oxen Hall. And all rainwater is falling on the building's 8,000 square meters roof are collected and used for toilet flushing and so forth. It was inaugurated in 1997, following up upon the big event in 1996, where Copenhagen was the cultural capital of Europe. One of the drivers for doing this is what I'm trying to name here, that the building heritage is worth money for homeowners all over the country. Building heritage means, among other things, 30% higher sales prices for conservation versus single family homes, and 13% higher prices for homes in areas that have more than 15% conservation versus buildings. Not only the homeowners get value from the building heritage, with cultural history and architecture, building heritage attracts tourists and new residents to an area. It rubs off the business sector's turnover, and it creates jobs, which has a positive effect on the municipality's economy. That is the background for actually doing such an effort as this one. And this has been stressed heavily in many of the areas that we are going to talk over today. So an attractive business life with many diverse shops can increase the values of home by up to 30%. With a park near the homes, the values of dwellings can increase by another 10%. These are some of the conclusions of research projects that diversity and conservation pays off. One of the characteristics about Copenhagen as such is that many of the sites in Copenhagen are owned by one landowner. And we're going to talk a little bit more with Søren Ganer, a sociologist that you will meet in session 2.3. The point that I want to address in this sense is that the landowner has an obligation or a responsibility to kind of secure that the city is being developed in this direction as we're talking about here. So the landowner has an interest in actually doing something to preserving existing architectural and urban quality, because it is attractive and it attracts people and it attracts money. So that is one of the strong, you could say, issues in regards to urban development in Copenhagen. It is something that has been characterizing many of the newer developmental moves in Copenhagen. Let's go further to another area in Copenhagen. This is Bellahøj. And Bellahøj is an area in the city of Copenhagen which is known as the home of Denmark's first high-rise buildings. You can see that here we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-story high building. That was unusual when this was built in 1944. It was built, Copenhagen municipality began to build this while the Second World War was not even finalized yet. And the background for this was that after the war, a lack of housing was identified. Also, Copenhagen municipality wanted to develop housing and urban areas so that there would be workspace for people coming home from the war. So there are two social aspects in this: fulfilling the need of housing and allowing this to be the work space and work identity for people coming home from the war. So Bellahøj is an ambitious move from Copenhagen municipality that was the result of an architectural competition that they initiated in 1944. Some architects were engaged to do the master plan, and within that master plan they directed that this should not be one architect doing all these housing towers here. It should be a number of architects. So they did a master plan for the area saying that the volumes should be more or less alike The character of the materials and the colors should also be more or less alike, but apart from that, the architect, four or more architects should work individually with shaping the individual towers within that overall context. The inspiration for doing this, for actually allowing this to be like an open area with a high density, but with many green spaces, came from the French-Swiss architect Le Corbusier. Some of you may have known or heard about him because he have had a great influence all over the world, and he actually also built, for instance, at Harvard in the United States. He was the one who actually developed the idea about building close and high, among other things, to use as little space as possible, and also to allow for a greater density in the buildings, and to shorten for time travel between home and work. Several housing associations ended up being parts of this area, and they joined forces to construct the Bellahøj Center, and they had their own architects in each of them. And I'm just gonna read out a number of names just to give you an idea about that actually quite many architects were involved in this. F.C. Lund, Dan Fink, Eske Christensen, Ole Buhl, Harald Petersen, Edwin Heiberg, og Carl Larsen, among others. They were all architects that were fairly well known in Denmark at that time, and that time was also considered as the golden age of Danish architecture. So it's not anybody, I mean, it's really a series of names in a Danish context that has been involved in developing Bellahøj. And one of the issues around Bellahøj is that now, today, it's going to be renovated. The window components that were installed then, for instance, is totally, hopelessly out of date according to energy standards and so forth that we have to deal with today. Also, the bathroom facilities and stuff needs to be updated. And the big discussion about this area is how to do that in a way that actually allows this formidable neighborhood to be updated and elegant and nice to be in and comfortable and supporting well-being and so forth. How can you do that within this very tough framework that describing the volumes and the colors and the materials as such? And how can you do that in a way so that it's also modern to be in? That causes heavy discussion in order to define the way of how to modernize listed buildings. So all the building sector is following very closely on what is happening at Bellahøj in this refurbishment move. So you would say that such a big move as the one about refurbishing Bellahøj is a way to actually overcome this storytelling approach by planning urban development around a basic concept that considers buildings and landscape together and enhances the character of the city and its local narrative. The refurbishment project that you see out here is defined and carried out by two quite important architectural offices nowadays in Copenhagen, and that is Henning Larsen Architects and Erik Architects, that both have high level qualifications for doing such a work as this one. This is another example that I would like to use for you as inspiration to see, could you have similar things going on from where you come from? The third example that I'm going to point out, that is this the vegetable square in Valby. It's called the Green Square. It is another area that used to have like an industrial feel to it. It has been a wholesale market for florists and greengrocers. And today this historic marketplace is in the process of becoming a new residential area to be named Ny Valby or New Valby. It's covering an area of just 20 soccer fields, and it is up into a scale where you can actually say that this is where you could build high-rises, and you can also develop this area with shops and institutions and cafes and parks and offices, which are currently under construction. The area was relatively recently left by the traders that are going to a bigger market outside of Copenhagen. In the spring of 2016, this took place. And then the plan for the completion of the new area started. One of the things that they actually wanted to take place in that period of time from the wholesalers leaving this area until it's actually built out is this approach of letting it in between have a character of temporary place for activities of any kind in the creative field, if you could say so. So it has been housing several various cultural initiatives, artist-driven galleries, artist studios, coffee shops, workshops, and it has been nourished and it has brought a strong temporary creative vibe to the area. The landowners do this to create an attractive atmosphere and to build up for this to be an area where other future residents and offices and institutions and businesses may want to live. So in that sense, the building owners, the site owners can support the sale of the future sites, so that they can get the money for it that they need, and it can become a well-equipped and nice and attractive neighborhoods for future dwellers and businesses. That is an approach, a strategy that has been followed several places in Copenhagen in regards to transforming areas from industrial areas into new attractive housing and business areas. Out here, they want to kind of give a feel of letting people who will live here know that it has this history behind it. So for instance, they give some names to the buildings after the flowers that were on sale in here. And they also do a lot to kind of encourage a park atmosphere where they want to plant fruit trees and bushes, also a kind of remembrance of the history of the place. And in this place, here is actually going to be like an elevated park, and that is where the original vegetable market actually took place. This area is interesting from another point of view, and that is the fact that that they actually want to encourage building affordable housing in this area, because it is increasingly difficult to find affordable housing in Copenhagen because of the high prices anywhere else. And many of the new construction projects in this area are unaffordable. Many of new construction areas around in Copenhagen are unaffordable for average incomes. Copenhagen municipality wants to go against this in this area and meet this shortcoming. So it will be a mixture of senior housing, student housing, condos, and housing cooperatives, which is very sympathetic, I think. So in this says also, in order to kind of fulfill and follow up upon the storytelling issue, Copenhagen will do this by promoting cohesion between areas of urban development and the surrounding neighborhoods, providing closeness and access to public spaces and amenities. That was the third area, and also in this case, can you come up with examples from your city that also try to pursue such an idea? The fourth example is this, which is, you could say, very unique. This is very, it's really out of the box in regards to how housing is built in Denmark. And one of the main reasons is that it's actually designed by an artist. It's designed by Bjørn Nørgaard, who is one of the few world-famous artists of Denmark. And he did this together with an architecture company called Boldsen and Holm. And as you can see, it is built with tiles. It has a very strong sense and feel to it of tiles, both yellow tiles and red tiles. And what Bjørn Nørgaard wants to achieve with this is that he wants this very unique and undulating serpent-like housing project to be in some kind of a dialogue with prominent features and prominent buildings that are around this area. The area is called Bispebjerg Bakke, and it's very close to Bispebjerg Hospital, which is a really, really beautiful hospital from around the century shift, mostly built by yellow bricks. So he's celebrating the connection and the close location to Bispebjerg Hospital, with also using bricks as a kind of a bridge, you could say, to meet with the Bispebjerg Hospital. Another prominent feature that is to find in this area is a really, really fantastic church called the Grundtvig Church. It is celebrating one of the big, you could say, priests, pastors, fathers of Danish culture, the Grundtvig. Grundtvig is the person who actually invented the folk high schools, which are really famous for Denmark, and you won't really find something like that anywhere else. Maybe in Sweden, but not very many other places in the world. Can you pursue your own wish to kind of develop yourself when you leave school, or you have just had your degree from public school and you are not really knowing where you would want to go in between, and you don't really know where you would want to, which direction your career would take. In that sense, the folk high schools is kind of like a pause, a place where you could develop yourself and your own mindset and be more clever on which direction to go in. And that phenomenon was invented by Grundtvig. And very close to this housing project in Copenhagen, you will find the big church that was also built for his memory, the Grundtvig Church. That is built by yellow bricks. So also, and it has a really prominent and fantastic profile to it. So in that sense, Bjørn Nørgaard also wants to play with that and attract attention, but also be in dialogue with this big, fantastic monument of yellow bricks that is built for the sake of Grundtvig, very, very close to. So also in that sense, you can say that architectural quality in individual projects should be promoted so that contemporary idiom relates aesthetically and functionally to cultural heritage, landscape features, and knowledge of the users of needs and well-being. And that is indeed the case in this fantastic project, which I personally favor a lot. So another theme that is being pursued here is also the theme of learning. In the development of Copenhagen, we aim to learn from experience, from both successful and less successful projects. The city of Copenhagen is constantly evaluated completed projects and conducted service and censuses. For example, to record the number of cyclists or activities in Copenhagen. Results, good experiences, and successful solutions are then incorporated into future projects. Learning, in this case, about the material and the quality of the material, and the characterization, the maneuverments, the way people move and so forth, is also an inspiration that Copenhagen wants to fulfill. This is, just to finalize, there are 11 buildings within this, this shape that you see here, and they have 135 exclusive rental properties. And the name, the Bispebjerg Bakke, Bakke means hill, so this also tells us a little bit about the fact that it's elevated, it's placed relatively high, and also from that sense it's trying to kind of work with the undulating hills being mirrored in the undulating forms. Also here, are there examples from your city that you could point as a similar way of working with a policy like the Copenhagen architecture policy? Those were the 4 places that we are going to that you're going to choose between in your assignment, and mirror up against examples from your city. And last but not least, in this session, we're going to talk a little bit about Carlsberg, because Carlsberg is where I'm taking you to show you an example of how this can actually be dealt with. So before I'm going to take you there, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the Carlsberg area as such. It is a former brewery, and the founder was J.C. Jacobsen, and after him his son Carl Jacobsen took over, and they are, you could say, green. They are important Mæcenes. They are important players in the Copenhagen culture development. So they have had a big eye, both of them, for art, for instance, and they are also the founders for a very famous museum downtown Copenhagen that is called the Glyptotek, which is one of the most prominent Danish museums in regards to, for instance, having a huge display of Roman artifacts, of French Impressionist pictures, and from Danish Golden Age Impressionist, and so forth. It is they are founded by the founders who also founded Carlsberg, and who felt an obligation to kind of lift the cultural level in regards to arts for Denmark and Copenhagen as such. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that there are some buildings in the old Carlsberg brewery area which are really, really interesting from an architectural and historical point of view. And when the brewery was left because in 2008, because they moved their production to Fredericia, a city in western Denmark, then there was a very high level of ambitions to continue working with these buildings as strong, you could say, metaphors and strong landmarks in how this area should be developed for housing and businesses in the future. This diagram is showing you how big an area we're actually talking about here. Everything that is white are existing buildings, leftovers from the time when there was still a brewery. brewing activities going on here. Everything that is blue are renovated or new built areas for offices and businesses. And everything that is green are new built areas for housing. So you can see that it's actually very many new built square meters that we're talking about in this area. And it has been very dogmatic from Copenhagen municipality and the former owners of Carlsberg to say that there is a number of all these white buildings that has to remain because of the architectural quality, but also because of the character and the quality that it will actually give to the overall area to create a fascinating, attractive, and nice atmosphere. So in this case, you could say that it is the idea or the ambition is to use the great potential of existing Carlsberg buildings to become an integrated part of Copenhagen and the life we know of Copenhagen, due to the fact that the city is located, this Carlsberg city as it is called, is located at the heart of the city and not at the edge as some of the other neighborhoods that we have been talking about. So, master planner behind this area, they have said about it that it is a gift to have to transform what has been a white spot for many years in Copenhagen map to develop this into an integrated part of the city. With the old industrial buildings and the location on Vesterbro, Carlsberg City must not invent a completely new identity, but it give a new identity to a fantastic frame. The town district is very much given with the industrial history and the many beautiful buildings that are preserved and given a new function, and with the new temporary urban spaces that Carlsberg City is well on its way to fulfill, the framework can create a new identity in the interplay between history and modern times. Let those be the words for now, and take a break and come back to the tour that I will show you a little bit around in Carlsberg, and give you an idea about what it is that we're talking about out there.